Enough.
Good, we got bridge.
We're on hold now. We're gonna be giving
I wanted to ask, did you barbecue my parents again, or yesterday went to
like this is not good.
keep the gun?
There's nothing, you get nothing done.
Yeah, you got 2 acres of corn, food plots
Hey,
planted.
Bill, Eric's not, he went home to Minnesota, so he's on his
Hold
way
on.
home. He's not gonna be here.
Actually, it might be interesting is that
Thank you. Oh, pass it down.
Or you can just hold it, I don't care.
so that grass, boy, you know,
Do you feel like you're in the home stretch?
this
Not yet, I'm just so overwhelmed right now. Because both kids are moving and
got down pressure.
we got Johnny back from Raleigh, now we get to Florida Thursday. And then Mandy's out of her apartment.
Okay, can we come to order, please? We're at 3 minutes after 9. It's time to get going.
They'll have to work.
This is the Washington Area Highway Transportation Committee. It is Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. Gina, could you give us the...
Ed Fisher,
Here.
Judy Wagner,
Here.
Paying attention.
Here.
Bob Ingeman, Bill Stratman.
Here.
Mayor Lucy. Jim Holtmeyer,
Here.
Tammy Cassette,
Here.
Obie Camp, Bill Miller.
Here.
Tim Brinker, Steve Silentro,
Here.
John Milges.
Here.
Stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, all. Good morning. First item, approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Everybody had a chance to review them. Any changes, corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. So moved. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Obie, there he is. Mark's not here. Judy, you want to talk about the bridge real quickly here?
I do. Actually, as you can see, we're on hold as far as the removal goes. We're way too high. So we'll probably be awarding the, as you all know, we will be giving them more additional time. So right now, our completion date was supposed to be, adjusted completion date was September 5th. So once this water gets down to gauge 20 is in the contract, then when we can start charging time again. So all these days when it's above 20, they'll get days back at the end of the contract, which will push us back farther, which means the trail underneath will be pushed back farther and those kind of things. Right now, we are able to do lighting. Alberici provided this. If you look out there now, it's a rental device that kind of snoops over and under so that Gersher can continue with all the lighting, nav lights, aesthetic lighting. And then we also are still painting the outside barrier wall. We weren't real pleased with the look of the wall, so we are painting that gray. So you can see probably the first 400 or 500 feet are done from the Washington side north. And we're painting the face and the top, the actual concrete. We're doing like a gray stain, so it'll look a little nicer on that outside look.
Oh, good.
Because when they finished it, it just, it wasn't consistent, so I wasn't real pleased.
Oh, good.
Press isn't here, so, okay. Don't tell anybody. But I think I wanted it to look a little better. So we're doing that now, so. And then the railroad bridge, that was our big next step that we tried to get in. And of course, the next day after the big crane came, the river started rising again. So that'll start our 2-week period over again with notifying the railroad. So to get that railroad truss, the deck truss is what the Minneapolis collapse was. That section is still up there. The decking, the roadway surface is off, but the actual truss needs to remove, and the railroad needs 2 weeks' notice for that. So that will all start again. So we're a good month away before that'll happen.
Any questions, comments?
Do you have that
I wanna,
presentation?
Yeah, I was,
Okay, I don't know if we have time, we can do that presentation.
what was that at again? That was, was that a jump drive that I had? Yeah, let me.
We'll see how that works.
Yes. And I want to compliment Bill on the article about the aesthetics of the bridge. I think that opened people's eyes as to what really happened there, as far as what went on and how it came to be. And I think that was well done, I personally think. Did you have something, John?
I'll see if I can get here later in the meeting.
Anyway, anything else on the Missouri River Bridge, Judy, that we should be aware of? Or?
Bobzik's not here, and off the record, were you planning on doing anything to recognize his leadership in the committee or anything? I did get a crisscross piece of the bridge and a bolt from the old bridge, and I didn't know if this committee wanted to recognize him in any way. By giving it to him, presenting it to him officially, or
Who you talking about?
Bobzik,
Oh, Bob Zick, yes.
Oh,
because he was formed out of this committee, right? No?
he was never
No.
part of this committee, but he.
But I mean,
certainly
we
did a
formed
good
that.
job.
Yeah.
Who created the bridge committee, the city or the?
Dick
Dick
Stratton
Stratton
did. And, because
Oh,
Bob
okay.
had gone,
The mayor did that.
Oh, the
Yeah.
mayor did.
Yeah, Mayor did.
I thought this,
Bob went to, it's my understanding that Bob went to Mayor Stratton and said, right after the bridge collapsed in Minnesota, and said, you know, we need to be talking about our bridge. Bob's a real safety guy. Anyway, I think Mayor Stratton said, that's a good idea, you can be in charge. I mean, I think that's,
I didn't know if you wanted to show anything, gratitude or anything officially. So I do have two pieces of the old bridge if you wanted to do something for him. I don't know. Just a thought.
okay.
I thought
Well, he got a,
we had suggested it here, so I shouldn't have brought it up here, sorry.
yeah,
That's
okay.
all right. That's all right. Anything else on the bridge?
Judy, is the striping completed on the north side of the bridge?
The north side is finished now. If you've been across it, it's a nice, smooth. The south side, we still got a lot of work to do, so.
Judy, is the north end of the bridge, is that done then? Is it finished?
You're in the final
You're in the
alignment.
final lane,
Yes.
so that's done. Yeah. Except for the underneath or whatever.
Except all the underneath, the shoulder,
Shoulders.
bringing up, the bike trail on the, I guess be the west side, that connection still has to be kind of built and around to go underneath. But yeah, the road alignment, though, you're in the final path over
That's
there.
where it is gonna be.
On the north side.
You know, is this a good time to talk about the bike path along Highway 47? Just an
Yeah.
idea of what we're gonna do there, if
Joe, I
anything?
think, is taking the lead now.
Trying, I mean, we're talking, I mean, there's,
You know, the concern is that when it opens, there's gonna be families and stuff who use the trail a lot. In an open area 10 feet wide, with people going 60 and 70 miles an hour, without a barrier.
we talked,
It's almost like you're inviting a problem. And I don't know the solution either. I'm just saying you're gonna have,
And I don't know, as far as the
Pedestrians.
family cyclists, how many miles, like, little kids ride anyway. I mean, that's a good half mile across, wherever they start. I don't know where they'd start. but-
understand.
So, I mean, by the time they go across, go under, and back, that's a mile for a little kid. So I don't know, if it's gonna are more adult like us that are gonna ride to the Katy Trail and be done for the day, or, you know what I mean? The avid cyclists are probably used to driving with traffic. So I don't know.
Where are we still talking about? the
Cutting
Warco
through the railroad.
Cutting through?
The airport, I'm sorry.
Well, I
Warco
think
Road.
that's I think we've got to continue looking at that, to do something there. And, we bought some time because that end of it's not done yet. But as soon as that opens up, I'm thinking you're going to have a lot of people want to use the pedestrian walkway and bike, and they're going to get to the other end, and then they're going to be right next to the highway, where they've got a barrier, across the bridge to keep them safe. I don't know the solution other than putting guardrail, from all the way to the Katy Trail, where the people live.
And you would want guardrail right next to the
I understand.
the lane line.
I understand. I mean, if it means doing something with Augusta Bottom Road, which is probably a good natural place for the trail to go, bike trail, but then you got costs there involved to keep them safe.
And that's actually narrower too.
It's narrower, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
we talked to Paul a little bit, I mean, in areas, they're different tremble strips are different, they were explaining, but, I mean, we're still talking. It's all about cost.
No question about it, but how many people, at what point does it become a problem with a person or persons or whatever?
We talked about Warpville Road, then you still get that section, then you gotta
Understand.
come back.
And it's not an easy solution. I think there's still got to be some ideas come forward, either on Augusta Bottom Road would be the natural, but that's, again, that's been a problem from day one. We just got the resolution of keeping people from going into the ponds, but
Right.
Judy, with all the high water we've had and so on, how far behind is the contractor as far as completion?
Right now, about 30 days. Probably about 30 days.
so you're talking about the 1st of October.
And that's right now, so it's not going down anytime soon.
Yeah.
As you see, there's no progress in the removal at all.
Yeah. Anything
It's
else?
gonna go on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is depressing. And then I heard on the way over here on the radio, they said the second highest flood in St. Louis on the Mississippi. So if that's still high, that's gonna take forever to go down.
Yeah.
So I don't see any relief in sight as far as,
How close did it
Going
get,
down
Judy? I noticed you've got signs prepared to,
we're gonna be very close this week, Thursday, Friday. We're gonna be real close to 47 on the north side,
Be real, that's what I got.
within inches of going over.
Inches.
To be honest,
It's a matter
It
of,
keeps going up.
yeah, it's a matter of something breaks upstream maybe, or it's gonna be that close.
so the question is, do you sandbag that area? To keep it from coming in, and so you can keep it open, or do you?
It depends where else it's gonna close at, and whether the Northeast District wants to do that or not.
Okay,
we had water coming under the road, 2 Creek on Saturday and Sunday. And I'm worried about where it going over the road, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Under, yeah,
But, you know, and then we had deputies down there, this and that, the rumor mill went crazy.
crazy.
Oh my God. You know, but I think we got the, for right now. So I think Thursday, the last report I got, Thursday's gonna be real close.
That's what, as of this morning, that's where we're at.
okay.
When does it close, what level does it close, west of 94?
If it's 33 feet in Herman, it's on the white lines between Goodsell and Martinsville.
Okay.
That's-
Hanging around.
I listen to the farmers there.
Yeah,
Right.
There you go.
they know.
And they know.
They know.
Believe me, they know a lot, they know.
They know.
Okay, moving on, Highway 47 Corridor Committee. John?
Yeah, so the committee met earlier this month with the consultant to discuss just different funding mechanisms. Specifically, the first step here is the NEPA process, the environmental process with the corridor. And the commission, Mr. Brinker, set forth a couple funding options, I guess, some percentages that weren't necessarily set in stone. But they were just some concepts about how this NEPA study would be funded. This is a pretty substantial study, you know, upwards of $1 million. So how does that get paid for with the different municipalities, the county, that type of thing? So he set those forth. We've not had an opportunity to discuss that with anyone. I know that they were hoping, I believe, by mid-June, I think, to try to move forward with these percentages. But I know there's some varying opinions, I guess, within the committee about how they get done. You know, how much does Washington Union, the county, you know, look at all different options of how you pay for this NEPA study. So that was kind of the bulk of the conversation. You know, yeah, there was 3 different, obviously, options for getting essentially through the Union area. The Burbis River is probably the biggest hangup. That's the bulk of the actual corridor from Washington to St. Clair is in that area. One would bring it essentially in the same alignment on the north side, and then build a new bridge across the Burbis. One would be to the east, one would be to the west. So there's 3 options there. Quite honestly, I don't, you know, that's a decision I think the union and the county would be
The
you don't have to
environmental
discuss much more.
process will determine
And that will also, that's,
the correct thing to say.
So they're expecting Washington, Union, St. Clair, and County to come up with $1 million for this NEPA study?
Somebody,
there is
Well,
a,
and the biggest bone of contention here is that East West Gateway and MoDOT will not allow to start the NEPA process until the funding is in place for construction. So if the county, and Tim's looking into bonding, some other taxing and some other things, to be able to fund a certain amount of money for the reconstruction of 47. So we don't allow the study to start until we know we've got some funding to do the construction. And that's been a rule that that East West Gateway and MoDOT put out a few years ago because we were getting all these studies and, you know, they just don't have a shelf life to actually bring them into construction. So right now, once the county can find the money for the NEPA document and then have their own funding source for a project within that NEPA area, then we can let them begin the study.
I think to answer your question, the proposal set forth by the county was a cost share between all the municipalities, though.
For the cost of the study.
Correct.
But we've got to have some cost for the construction of what is determined as the preferred alternative, at least some money. And Tim and I were throwing out 20 million, that you're going to have to come up with about 20 million to have some set, like determined how they're going to fund about $20 million before we let them.
And that would be just the
Middle section.
that middle section would be
And again,
about
we
20 million?
We don't even know what the cost is. Well, that would be half, because they could apply for the cost share. So 20 plus 20 would be about $40 million.
But that's
In a
only,
construction.
is the total project from Washington to St. Clair 40 million?
No, it's more 80 to 100.
80 to 100, okay, that's what I thought. So
But
the
right
40
now-
million would be for what they see as the priority, right?
That's their opinion, yes. Yeah. So right now, Tim, our Commissioner Brinker, originally had said, let's just do the whole project, meaning you'd have to come up with 40 to 50 million dollars in just the local share to match with MoDOT. And obviously, that's not doable with the county revenue that we have. So now he said, let's see if we can do a smaller NEPA and a smaller segment of that corridor to alleviate the congested area. And then we can start with that smaller project and then work out from there. Or you could work south from there, St. Clair could work north from there.
But the NEPA study would be from Washington to St. Clair, or just that area?
Well, that's to be determined,
That
because
is.
when I had the meetings in December and January, after the commission met, Federal Highway, East West Gateway, and MoDOT all agreed that there could be a smaller portion, which would be considerable less of a NEPA document, a quarter of that cost probably, but we got to get started, and that's the problem. Until you get started and have everybody on board,
And that portion's $1 million?
the NEPA, a full NEPA EA, environmental assessment, was about $1 million. Now, whether or not we need that level of NEPA, because you could do a categorical exclusion, there's like levels as you go up. EIS, an environmental impact statement, being the most costly, the most timely, involved process. So if it comes to, well, we get, once the county comes up with their million and there's potential funding for construction, then we could, the county's gonna write a letter, then we'll do some internal work to say, okay, you know what, we can do this segment. And the study may only cost, $250,000 or $100,000 or whatever it is. So we gotta get to that point. The problem is, because all over the state, we've got people starting these studies and they're not having any kind of money to do the construction. So we don't want all these studies started, getting all these people worked up, and then, there's
Well, and
no
what's the shelf
commitment of
life?
funding.
What's the shelf
3 to
life?
5 years.
So if you do one and then don't have your funding in line, you
Starting
might
over.
not
It's
get
not
that
worth
done.
it.
I heard what those percentages were, how they were wanting, how the county was wanting to divide that up. Does anybody know?
I wasn't there, I'm sorry.
County 20 for,
I think the county was willing to do
40.
40%. I think they were asking the cities to do, they asked Washington to do
20?
20. I think it was 20.
I think it was 20.
And then I think Union had a bigger
Road districts.
2060. I think there was another 20 or 30 or 40, something like that, and then St. Clair had a little bit. The concern, that we talked about is just, it's outside the city limits of for Washington we have, and the bulk of it is within the city of Union. And so I think therein lies the challenge, trying to go ahead and come up with funds for that NEPA study for the city of Union, to go ahead and come up with the lion's share that's going to be there.
Do we have to do a NEPA study when we did 100?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was an environmental assessment.
Did we pay part of that?
Yes, you guys upfronted the whole cost of it.
And we're still paying on that till 30, correct?
Till 30.
2030, yes.
You pay off the bonds in 2030.
That's for the whole construction, though, not just the study.
Right, that was the entire thing.
And it's backloaded, meaning that the big
Right.
payments are coming up. I mean, or at the
We
end.
off some of that with some refunding that we did recently or whatever, we shaved off $5 million. But yes, as the mayor said, there's a lot that's backloaded.
So
And that's when your tax is also, your local sales tax for transportation
It's also,
expires in 2030 as well.
20% of a million's 200,000, and it's, I can't see St. Clair saying that they're gonna jump on board.
Well, I'm considering the safety study that we had, they chose not to, and
Correct.
we paid, I think, 25,000 towards it. Is that correct?
I think so.
Where would their percentage come from that they don't wanna offer?
I'm sorry, St. Clair's?
Yeah, if they decide not to contribute, then I guess it's gonna have to go to, our percentage is gonna have to go up.
Well, the county paid St.
The
Clair's
cities.
portion on the other study.
Right.
The county paid that.
The other discussion was using the transportation tax that goes out to the committees, or to the cities for their grant, which was like right at $250 a year.
correct.
And just
250,000.
save that money up for the next 4 years.
And we did that similar for the 47 bridge as well.
Yeah, they used the whole
2012,
250,000.
I believe it was.
Judy, would there be more involved with that study in that union portion where they're trying to take care of the?
Obviously, that's our environmental impacts.
And that's my other point, is that I think that there's a lot more involved with that core section that they want to go ahead and do over in Union with the congestion, rather than to the north and south, where you're working within existing right-of-way,
Well,
pretty much,
yeah, that's what we're thinking, of widening through the existing.
right? So that study that's going to be focused, a lot of the effort's going to be focused on whatever route they decide to take through Union.
And that's why the 100 study was so cheap too, because
Widening.
it was just along the existing route.
Right.
Because we had already had old 100, so we knew new 100 was going to be
You weren't rerouting.
adding lanes.
Right.
So we knew the impacts there.
So,
47 through Union, though, is a very unique character because you've got the river and it's winding through, so you're going to either have to cross it a couple times once.
And railroad.
The railroad is really not an environmental impact, but the mussels, the plants, all that stuff that comes with that river, is a big, the cost is the railroad, but that's really not an environmental.
Regardless, 47 has an offset, so you have to
Gotta
connect that
figure
offset
that
at some
out. That's
location, which is crossing the river.
So the environmental impact statement that was done, Judy, for your most recent improvements over there in Union, wouldn't that pertain to the same area? pretty
Only
much?
for the smaller study, just,
I'm just saying, for the smaller
Yes.
study, where the one that's, puts a new crossing. The improvements that you made on Highway 50 and 47, right at the intersection,
Uh-huh.
just completed, what, 2 years ago?
Oh, the bridge, the
Yeah.
Lake Creek. What's
under
that
the
creek?
railroad, and yeah.
Lake Creek Bridge?
That's
No,
not-
it's it. Flat Creek.
It wouldn't be close enough that your
No,
environmental would
because
cover
that
that?
did not require anything more than a CE,
Oh, it didn't require environmental?
which is, everything involves an environmental impact. Everything involves a NEPA process. What level of that process is determined by what you're doing. So Flat Creek, that bridge, it was just 2 lanes, and all I wanted to do was replace that bridge, but in order to replace it, we had to widen it so that we could continue to have traffic flowing through there. And that's why all the extra lanes are there and everything. So we utilized just a preservation project to replace a bridge to get that much of the widening done. I know people hate me for it because it's confusing, but that's what I was trying to do, was just use a little bit of our district-wide preservation money to get a little bit of the widening done in order to handle traffic.
The study that was done on 47 in 2002,
The MTIA.
that has no bearing on what we're looking at now? I mean, this was the study that was.
Old, it's 17
I know
years
it's
old.
17 years old, but, you know, the last letter of correspondence from you was in December of 2009. You were talking about when you're gonna open the new bridge if you got this far to this far to this far. So it took 10 years, actually to the day, or almost to the day. I mean, this is gonna be a long trek to
Yep.
get this done. It's not gonna be an easy, it's not gonna happen overnight, it's not gonna happen in 5 years, it's not gonna happen probably in 10 years. So there's gotta be a long-term plan, I think.
And that's what I think Commissioner Brinker's working on. And going back to that, because the original MTIA, the Major Transportation Investment Analysis, went from Marthasville all the way to 44.
That's right.
So in that study, and that actually helps us now, when we looked 2008, or whenever we started the NEPA process for the new bridge, Federal Highway, I mean, we met days with that, trying to discuss and go over the MTIA, and we determined that the bridge replacement could be an independent utility corridor. So we ended up stopping it at Third Street, the actual NEPA process, stopped at Third Street, went to Augusta Bottom Road, and they agreed with that. They actually gave us those limits and said, do not expand the project beyond this, and we'll let you do an EA. Because of the river, it was an environmental assessment.
sure.
So that's how we got to do that little stretch, was because our main intent was just replace that bridge. But given that the MTIA had evaluated like 185 crossing east-west of this Missouri River, it had already been evaluated in there, and they looked at that as well to say, you know what, we'll allow you just to replace it here. And that's why we got lessened from an EIS to an EA to do the bridge replacement. And the limits of the NEPA were considerably smaller, similar to what we're trying to do in Union. Instead of doing the whole study, let's just do the portion that we can actually build and fund.
Yeah.
Because it is 10 years out to do that, let alone the entire corridor, which could be years and years. You know, are we gonna do like we're doing now on 100 to the west of 47? You know, we widened a little bit, then we did another widening, then we did another widening, and, you know, we're out to High Street. But eventually, it's gonna have to go all the way to Hydeman. I mean, there's no way to get away from that. But I think you're gonna do it in small size pieces, which will do categorical exclusion, which the A is very minimal. And that was kind of how we did this, the two cost shares out this way that we did.
Betty, I know it's very early to have any determination, but it seemed to me an awful lot of right-of-way is gonna be needed in this project. I'm talking about the total project, and even if you do it piecemeal, are there any estimates been made of, you know, what kind of, how much?
That's why it gets up to 100 million. It's anywhere from 80 to 100 million, Bill, because there is so much right-of-way that would be required, depending on the alternate that's chosen. So if a direct alignment for, say, moving 47 south to line up with 47 north, you've got a nice home that sits up there, you've got another home behind it, then you gotta make a bridge crossing. If you go this way and move 47 south, like right when you get past Independence, and then start relocating it to the east, you know, you've got all those homes over there, and then bring it through like Dave Bailey's property to line up directly with 47 south? Or do you go all the way on the other side of the car dealer and bring it in around there through a trailer park and some other impacts? So that's where that $20 million either way can go. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, cost difference between residential and commercial property. And then if you go through such as a trailer park, you got to pay relocation costs and follow the Federal Relocation Act. So there's a big variance depending on which alternative you take. You know what I mean? So it's hard to get down to pin down a dollar amount in right away.
Well, on
And everybody wants to know exactly what it's gonna cost, but we can't until you do the environmental process to say, okay, you know, we've looked at 5 alternatives, moving this way, going this way, going this way, and going this way. Now you've gone through all the environmental processes for all 5 alternatives. Which one will be the preferred alternative. Then you can start honing in on, okay, there's 15,000 square feet of commercial, there's 2 acres of farmland, there's 20 homes, there's, you know what I mean? And then you can get a real good cost estimate. And so that's why the next step for the county is to get to that process so we know where, you know, and we could say the city of Union's got to pick, no, the NEPA process will decide where the best location is. And the impact is traffic movement. So not only will we try to avoid all the bats and the trees and the plants endangered species and all of those, but we also have to look at the cost to be, you know, and the traffic flow, how is the best way to handle traffic flow? The good thing is we really don't have any major 4F properties in that vicinity, so that's helpful. Like in Gray Summit, you know, Botanical Gardens, Shaw Nature Reserve, there's a 4F property in,
What's 4F?
where you can't touch them, where they've.
Okay, you don't know
I
what the
don't know
4Fs are.
4Fs are, no.
But you can't do anything to those.
You cannot
properties.
touch them, yeah, they're like a FEMA buyout. But these are, you know, like protected, like the rock wall that runs around Shaw Nature Reserve there. There's a big building in Gray Summit. So that's why automatically 100 has got to get relocated. We cannot put it in town because you can't touch those people, properties, or pieces of wall, or whatever it is. It's protected. I don't know, it's just, it's like an endangered species.
And I don't think, Bill, you weren't talking so much about costs, but as what can be done? Is that what your question was gonna be?
Well, really, I was wondering too, how much along the existing corridor when, of Highway 47 now, are there any stretches in there where you have enough right-of-way to add 2 more lanes and?
Yeah, from here to Union, it would be very close to have enough. Again, you'd have to limit our crossovers because you'd have to close in the median. You know, on 100, we were allowed to have that 40-foot, 40 or 32-foot, I don't remember what we built, grassy median so that we could allow crossovers. On 47, we would not be able to have that because we don't have the right-of-way. So you're going to build 2 lanes head-to-head with a barrier wall down the middle maybe. So then your crossovers would not be allowed. So you'd have to convert everything to right in, bring them to a signalized intersection, make them U-turn and go back to that direction. So those are the kind of things that you'd have to consider if you build that type of road. So just widening on existing, or you can do like what we did on 100 from 47 out to High Street. Just build it all pavement and lower the speed limit and put the center 2-way left turn lane in there. May not be the safest kind of roadway to build for such a long stretch of unincorporated area. Washington made sense because you had a lot of turns and stuff. 47, you know, people are wanting to get through there fast. The maximum speed limit for those 5-lane sections where you have the 2-way left turn lanes in the middle is 45 recommended. I think on 100, we got a design exception for 50. So the stretches are through 50 miles an hour for those twiddles. But those are the kind of things you got to weigh out. Are you wanting a high-speed corridor? Or are you wanting to develop everything along the corridor on both sides? So you got to provide full access. You know, those are the kind of things that you got to decide. And, you know, when Commissioner Brinker and I had those discussions, that's your corridor. You want to make sure it's able to be retail to get, you know, more revenue in the future. So you don't want to go in and dirty cheap and just build a 4-lane with the barrier down the middle, and then you've eliminated all your, you know, your full access points, but then you've kept the corridor open for traffic flow. So there's a lot of things to decide, and I mean, I'm not the one, I won't, you know, be the one to say, no, we're gonna do this, unless I get a budget like I got on the bridge, like, you know, we got $50 million, Judy, you gotta build it for 50 million, and of course, we went to 63, but the curve at the south end, instead of buying more properties, you know, that was something that was one of the alternatives to get it in on, you know, cheaper. So it's all about how much money you want to spend and then what your alternatives are for that price dollar. And I hate to be so vague, Bill, but that's all I can, I mean, because it is very vague at this level. But those are your options. What do you want? You know, the city can continue to widen doing cost shares. If some of that land that's for sale on 47 goes for sale, and the city wants to incorporate it, then that's an easy cost share, just to widen down 5-lane section down to that point, throw a signal if it warrants a signal, and then be done with it, you know, just like we did out 100? Or do you want a high-speed connection to 44?
Does MoDOT have a firm policy right now that they're not condemning property to get right away?
No, we will condemn.
Didn't do it at the bridge.
Yeah, we did.
On the south side,
Oh, on the south side? We didn't have to.
oh, where those houses are, to eliminate that curve.
That was part of that, trying to get it in under 50 million, which we
Yeah.
got it in under 65 million because there was extra.
Right.
I just heard somewhere along the way that you weren't condemning property.
No, we're condemning. In fact, we're still dealing with the parcel on the north side. We condemn for that. No, because the property on the south side, we went in just asking for a strip of land and they settled for the price that we offered or were negotiated through that process. But in fact, on another project I have right now, we're filing papers this week, so. We don't like to because people, we want everybody to love us, but, I mean, in some cases, you just can't reach an agreement and it's,
We love
the
you.
only alternative at that point.
You're still condemning.
Yes, we are, for sure. I think his brother-in-law's.
Yeah, right.
Anything else?
I think, yeah, before we leave the discussion, I want to throw out there how important I think it is for Franklin County, Washington, Union, and everybody in the county that we concentrate somewhat on the connection between here and Union. We've got industry there, we've got employees here, we've got industry here, we've got employees there. We've got a clogged highway in the middle that's going to overburden Highway A, Highway V, and all these others as it goes. So I think the idea and the discussion of having a small step to get the whole big thing that may take 20, 30, 40 years to get done is important, that we do the small step to fuel this economic engine, so we may have more money for the entire step later. You'll probably hear that every time we talk about it coming from me.
And I mean, the thing is, St. Charles County, and I hate to bring them up as a comparison, but St. Charles County, that's what they're doing. They're coming to us with the money for the study, and they're committing to half of the cost, Route N, for example, out in St. Charles County. They're coming to us, say, okay, you know what, I've got the money for the study, and I got half the cost for the construction of up to $50 million, or whatever they're saying. And then that's what's happening. We're going, okay, we'll allow the study to move forward, and then following up with, you've got that much money in the bank or in your vault somewhere that you can generate to create that cost share project in the future. And I mean, the problem is, we don't have that money here in the county.
Yeah, do they have a countywide
Tax.
transportation tax?
Yes, and they have a road board that designates where that money goes.
Okay, do you know how much it is?
Amanda Brewer, I mean, that might be somebody you want to invite to talk to. She's over that road board. She's actually the engineer that leads that.
I was just curious how much.
And then those members are appointed at large, I believe, or elected, I think. But she could give us more details on how they run that. I know Jefferson County right now is struggling too, because they're getting all their land that's left to develop is not on the corridors. They're on these windy, curvy roads, and, they're looking at TGA, which is the trip generation assessment. So however many trips or traffic generating that development is causing, this money goes into this pool, and then this board can decide where it goes. So if, County Road ABC Sugar Creek Road needs to be improved, then they could take that money from all over the whole county and put the money towards that. And that's basically what St. Charles is doing. They're collecting this revenue from every developer that comes into the county and their taxes. Then this board decides, okay, we want to spend it all on Route N this 5 years. And this is how we got to do it. We got to start with the NEPA, then we're going to commit half of that cost of that to doing the construction. And then the next year, 5 years later, the money could be on a county road somewhere. Right now, their needs are all on state routes, similar to what you have. But see, you can see they're starting on lettered routes on N. I mean, it's a lettered route, so it's not like, a 47, a numbered route. That's a higher priority, higher volumes.
Okay, thank you.
Judy, have you reviewed the Federal Infrastructure Act and how that's, I know it's not voted on yet or whatever,
No.
but it also is a cost share, a lot of cost share in that new program if it comes from the feds.
Yeah, the state's gonna have to come up with a match, so that's the problem. I mean, if not the state, the counties or cities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yes. You know, the way we've done it in the past, we've been able to match, you know, do the matches that are necessary. And this one is too big. This county one now is the one is beyond Washington's ability,
Right.
certainly. And probably the county is gonna have to do most of it. A lot of the taxes generated for the county come through Washington. And,
The other thing Tim and I talked a little bit about was the bill that's going through is now on the well, actually, I think he did sign the budget.
yeah, he signed it.
So there's $50 million cost share now in general revenue that goes towards economic development cost sharing opportunities. So if you're gonna bring something, kind of like the Wentzville plant was individual, so they passed that just for that business. But now there's another fund that's 50 million that can be used to cost share anywhere in the state. But it's gotta be driven by economic development.
He did pass it was 350 million, which was gonna be
That was for the
bonded.
bridge one, that's
And
different.
that's the bridge one, that's the bridge one. So there's 301 million in bonding gonna happen to cover the other, whatever, 200 bridges or whatever it is. So that is passed and that's gonna happen. The payback on that's gonna be, the bonding's gonna be in 7 years, I think.
I believe it
opposed
was
to-
7. They were
it was 7.
back and forth, so it's.
Yeah. But that portion of it is passed now, so.
So basically, we're gonna issue $301 million. They gave the authority for MoDOT to issue those bonds. And then 49.6 million came out of general revenue.
Right, general revenue.
For that bridge program. So those 215 bridges, or, I'm sorry, 215 bridges, but they were up to 250 with their general revenue money. So it equals 350 total, but basically, we only hit the bond 301.
Right. And that's subject to the MoDOT getting a grant for the Roachport Bridge.
Which is the infra grant,
Yeah, which was the infra grant, right.
which we won't know that till this fall,
So really, the
So none
bonding
of
won't
that
happen.
happens unless,
unless we
get
get the
that
infra
grant.
grant.
Get the grant from,
what are the chances of that?
I'm not good, I don't know.
you know,
But my thought is if we're putting this much leverage, the whole government of
Right.
our state is putting that much leverage for public improvement to that infra grant, now that means a lot more to me if I was the grant approver.
Sure.
Because now I not only have this grant that I'm getting these improvements from, but now also I've got this $350 million in bridges that we can leverage if this gets approved. So I mean, that to me makes our application look a lot better than maybe some other states.
how close is that Roachport Bridge to being obsolete?
It's not obsolete, it's
Not
just gonna
obsolete,
be
but I'm saying-
deficient, yeah.
It's gonna, yes. So the question was,
Bridge has been identified, and are there, how many in Franklin County that would be in that?
That's the AD over Happy Sack, we have one.
yeah.
Jefferson County has 2. I think St. Louis County has 1, but most of those are in the rural part of our state. But they were already prioritized, they were already on our transportation plan. So these aren't just projects we're pulling out of the air, these are actual projects. And by allowing us to bond that 300 million, now that opens 350 million, that's new money that's in our STIP that has not been prioritized projects. So that opens all this money up for new projects to be moved into the STIP.
So it's gonna be very important, if we're gonna do something at the bridge, the Highway 50 bridge, is to get some kind of a item with the EIAs done and whatever, so that it gets into this trough, so that when these projects come up and you got an opportunity, it's in line to get funded.
And right now, the bad thing is, the long-range plan is out for comment right now, and the Route 47 project is illustrative Tier 3. It was up in Tier 2 or Tier 1, I can't remember, but now it's moved all the way down to Tier 3 in illustrative, and that's the only project in Franklin County on the long-range plan.
Yeah.
And that's out for public comment right now through June 7th.
Is that just because other ones have come up that are better? Or,
Considerably a higher priority. So, I mean, you can go out on the website right now, and I was gonna suggest doing that at the end, but I would suggest you go out to East West Gateway website and comment on the long-range plan and say, hey, you know, we have one need, and it's in the very last part of the corridor, of the plan. That's off the record, Bill.
Yes.
I didn't say that. But I would highly
Wagner
suggest,
told me to tell you.
please don't say that. Although I am on my way out, but I still don't want to go like that. But I really suggest that people get involved in this comments because they're going to start listening to people, maybe, if money's there. But I just think that if Franklin County has one project in this whole long-range plan that's worth, I don't know how many $1 billion, and you have one project and it's all the way
All
out
the way out
here,
there? Okay.
my opinion only.
Well, the county's going to want some input from the Washington area on this percentages for this.
Yeah, that's specifically to that corridor,
That
but I mean, I think you got to fight for keeping your project in the long-range plan.
Who makes the decisions on the long-range plan? Who's in the,
Our MoDOT planners, one of which is, he's retiring this week, so that helps. And then East West Gateway. Because East West Gateway will tell you that they pretty much go with MoDOT's prioritization plan.
Yeah.
So our planners in St. Louis District kind of go through all the priorities and rank them based on need, economic development, freight movement, those condition, those kind of things, and that kind of just prioritizes out. And that's kind of how it gets done. So,
It's interesting that it's moved all the way down to the third tier when it had been up higher.
and before you say that, I would look that up. And Bill, I don't know if
don't
you've
know
got
either.
the last one. Okay. I don't have it with me.
No. So anyway, we got to move on.
Yep, sorry.
It's already, we're 10 minutes.
I took way too much.
Yeah, we-
Franklin County Transportation Committee?
That's what,
Oh, sorry.
That's a,
go ahead.
We met earlier this month as well. The grant applications, local grant applications are out with our projects being reviewed at the next meeting. Like I said, Commissioner Bricker was discussing about how we move forward with this plan, 47 corridors, so that may change how those grant apps to our local governments for our own maintenance projects and how that kind of looks. We also discussed that there were 7, I believe, projects that were submitted to East West Gateway for STIP funding. Of the 7, Washington, we do have, staff is recommending 2 of those, Westlink and Jefferson Street. So that's positive. We discussed that as well. In that meeting, Franklin County was awarded 1. It was a bridge. I do not know what the other ones were, but, so we did get 2 out of the 7 that were applied for within the county. So that was pretty much the basis of discussion.
just kind of an off the beat. Judy, years ago, East West Gateway had to give one project to the county, every year. And one year, we were on the bridge over by Pacific,
Bend Road.
Bend Road Bridge, and we came within just one project of getting the Bend Road Bridge funded. If we all stuck together and they had to fund, we only asked for one project. Is that still available?
Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't know
we had
how it
almost-
is anymore.
We almost got it, and that would have been how many million to the Bend Road Bridge?
Well, but we got it the next year.
You got it the next year, but even so, I mean,
And the way the STIP works in our long-range plan, they try to prioritize it based on population. So since Franklin County has the least population of all the counties within the MPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, then they say that we should get, 7%, Jeff County should get 12%, St. Louis County gets 58%, whatever it is. But that's kind of how they do it. And if you look at what we've got in the last 3 years, we got 62 million there, 16 on 44. I mean, we've gotten a lot more than our share on the 5-year plan over the last few years than what technically we should. And that's what they're looking at too. So they'll tell me all the time, like, well, you already got enough money. You got enough for 5 years. You don't need that resurfacing or whatever kind of thing because we're getting our share. But to me, the long-range plan is where we need to start pushing, because if it keeps getting
no
bumped,
question about it, yeah.
we're never gonna get it.
This MT, Major Transportation Investment Analysis Study, was started in 1997, and it was done in 2002. So it took 5 years for this study that studied the same corridor that we're studying now again. And it's more technical, obviously. There's more, the road's more technical. to build it. And it's gonna take, I'm just thinking if there was an opportunity where if everybody in the county, every municipality were to say like, Washington's gonna allow their emphasis to go for this one project for the county, everybody, Union, Washington, and decide on one project, does it still hold the weight?
I think it would, yes.
That's what we gotta do then. We gotta start, that's what I think we
But
gotta.
again, what's that project? It's a local project normally.
local
You're talking a local project.
These are,
So I don't know what your highest priority is. If it all of a sudden becomes that, like Tim and I have talked about, you can spend county money on the state route. So if your highest priority is Route 47 for all the county roads, you know, then Ron Williams isn't gonna get his bridge replacements, John's not gonna get his projects. But if you apply for a project on 47, it's 80-20 match. So it's better than MoDOT's 50-50 match. So you're paying less for a bigger project, if that makes sense, and then use those funds to leverage 50% from MoDOT. So you're creating a project on 47. You're gonna fill out your TIP application for 47 instead of a Hendricks Road Bridge or a Fifth Street overlay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have one project on 47. You're gonna apply through the TIP process, and then you're gonna apply for 20% match, 80% federal money. Then you're gonna take that $20 million or $10 million that you've used to leverage, now to leverage 50% from MoDOT. So out of the $10 million project, you're only paying 20%, which is $2 million, and now you're getting another $10 million from MoDOT. So now you've got a $20 million pot that you're only paying $2 million for. So you've got a $20 million project that you've only paid $2 million for, if that makes sense.
And it benefits the whole county.
And it
It
benefits.
benefits the whole county, that's the whole point.
So you're basically, instead of paying a 40 million, or the 20 million, let's just say $20 million project, instead of just coming straight to MoDOT and saying 50-50, I'm gonna pay 10 million.
Yeah.
You're gonna take the project East West Gateway first, get 80% of your 10 million.
Okay.
And then come to MoDOT with, here's 80% federal money, here's 2 million local money, now we want your 10 million. And now you got a $20 million project for $2 million. If that makes sense. And that's what I've been meeting with Tim on, because it's hard to understand, but it's.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, though.
Yeah,
It makes sense, and you've got to hear it a
you
couple
stack,
times.
what you do is you stack up
Stacking
opportunities is what you do.
opportunity.
Right.
exactly.
That's all.
But again, that's what,
And it-
Tim's like, you know, trying to comprehend it all, but it makes the most sense, and it's legal. You
It's-
can use that
it's-
right
it's no-
now.
it's no
Now, whether
different
that
than-
changes.
It's no different than these Franklin County Transportation grants that are
Right.
very small numbers.
Yeah.
We can use that to leverage our 80-20 cost shares for our STIP projects. So pick one, Jefferson Street Bridge was one that we've done previously. We utilized $50,000 of Franklin County money to offset the 20% on a $1 million project. So $1 million, or I'm sorry, on $1 million project. $1 million project only cost the city $200,000, and then we also then offset that with a $50,000 Franklin County grant. So it only cost the local tax base $150,000.
Yeah.
You just stacked up opportunities, is what you did.
It sounds complicated, but really,
It's very simple and.
it's really
big.
simple.
It's
You're
not.
really centralizing all your efforts into one project, and that project, if it means getting the NEPA done, or whatever,
Partial need.
partial NEPA,
And
whatever
when
you gotta do.
when you submit those applications, you also have to have your financial side already, that has to be
Right.
signed off ahead of time, otherwise the application is essentially void. So it's coming in agreement prior to submitting that application, which
You have
is
to have your 20%.
most likely what we're discussing right now.
Yeah.
Is what does that look like?
So you can't go to East West Gateway for a $10 million
Blind,
project with
without-
no money in your pocket.
Understand.
Which makes sense, yeah. Why would you waste your time?
Yeah, okay. More to be talked about that later. Anything else on Franklin County Transportation Committee? Joe, you want to talk about anything? I see Eric's not here.
Water.
Yeah, water, your complications with the water.
Muddy water.
I'm learning a lot.
Yes.
Learning a lot.
Airport?
So the airport, so we have evacuated essentially all non-essential things out of the airport, just in preparation. Non-essentials would be some furniture, things of that nature. We've notified all the tenants in there as well. The potential of flooding water is up on the levees, so any groundhog hole could cause potential issues. So we just let everybody know about that. We're monitoring it 2 to 3 times a day, essentially, that if there was a change. So we're doing that. Fuel sales are doing well. Really no variation from what we would have expected. The striping project that I've been discussing over the past couple of months, we do have a low bid on that. We are working diligently with MoDOT to get the paperwork completed so we can get that in front of City Council to approve that project or to request their approval of that. We do not have a specific timeline yet, but that is at MoDOT getting those final paperwork documentation done with that grant. That is a 90-10 project. It did come in $70,000 under the estimate. We did request multiple projects that this contractor has done. So we hopefully do not run into another situation with our previous contractor. They did not bid. If they would have bid, I basically would have just put it in the trash. So anyway, kidding. But so we're working on getting that completed. Once again, that will cause a approximately 3-day closure of the airstrip and just some delays because we are doing some pavement replacing and some striping on that. Once again, once I get that down and get that pre-con set, I will let everyone know as much as I possibly can on that schedule of that closure so we can adjust from there. As far as the apron project goes, we did receive requests to close that out from Ranieri. So we're working on getting that paperwork taken care of. That's the punch list items. There's approximately $15,000 remaining left on that contract, but we are prepared to release that and close that out and move forward from that. Other than that, as I've stated before, if there's any issues with anything at the airport, make sure you forward those to me or to myself or Kevin, and we'll make sure we get them addressed as fast as possible.
Bill, we're hoping to get that approved by the MoDOT before the ALP.
Forever.
Forever, yes. Airport layout plan. And that is at MoDOT again as well.
Yes.
So,
Hey, Bill, I do have one comment.
Yes, John? Joe?
Last week, a lot of rumors going on, when the bridge is gonna close, and it didn't close, and people were calling me. We had a meeting last week with everybody on Warren County side, and we went through Jim Sharp and Mike Daniels, which is our emergency management. I was wondering if it'd be good to get somebody on this side to let you know exactly when it will close. You want to get on that website?
Yep,
On that email list?
yeah, Mark Scornier, Emergency Management Director.
Is Mark okay?
He would be the single point of contact of the city.
Because, last week, Thursday or Friday, like was closing at 8 o'clock, you guys were coming, I'm like, well, you guys know a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
It wasn't closing.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rumors just.
there's a lot of variation there. I mean,
Then it was, on Channel 2 News, and I called, so instead of everybody doing it, we just went through one person, and Jim Sharp is the media guy, he lets us know.
yeah, and I'll make sure I let Mark know that to get hold of you guys, because, and that's the thing, the variation in the river right now is all over the place. You get a local rain event, it'll jump, there's just no
Because
room
NOAA's
left.
website's based on the immediate 24-hour forecast.
Well, that way Jim would know, Jim, he just sent me one again just a second ago, he lets us know, that way Mark can let everybody know if it will close at a certain time, whatever, and MoDOT makes that call at the end anyway, we don't,
Correct. So I'll make sure I get Mark in contact with you all.
thank you, sorry.
Anything else? No, thank you, Joe. Anything else?
Nothing.
Airport? Hearing none. Team Track?
No report?
East-West Parkway?
No report?
No report. Public Transportation? We got Corey. Sure, Corey. Come on up, Corey, up to
To the
the podium.
microphone.
Chad told me this morning that Boone's Lake is exploring application to design a causeway project, north of 47. And then Missouri River Country Day is on June 1st, this Saturday at Oakland Winery, just outside of Herman.
Very good.
Yep.
I know that one. Very good. Anything on public transportation? Any other business? Judy, you want to talk about any of these projects on your list?
No, if anybody's got questions, But I did find the long-range, I thought I brought it and I found it. The old long-range plan, which was from 2 years ago, we updated it. And our 47 corridor improvements was illustrative Tier 1, along with
Wow.
Missouri 100, realign and reconstruct interchange east of Gray Summit, which is the section of 100 from 00, just this side of 00 and build the new interchange. That was also in Tier 1 illustrative. And now this long-range plan, they're in Tier, 100's not even on it, I don't believe. But 47 is Tier 3 now. So this was
Which
the
is better,
last.
which is better, 1 or 2 or 3?
Tier 1 is quicker.
Quicker, okay.
And what's illustrative mean? That sounds like, if I feel like-
Illustrative means illustrative.
Just what it is.
It's not fiscally constrained.
Right.
So like the project, like, this is the last long-range plan, connected 2045, 2036 to 2045. These projects are supposed to be fiscally capable of building within that 10-year period.
So what's it called when it gets out of illustrative?
It's not on the plan.
No, moving up.
Oh, forward, then it'll be in a period, which is like period 2036 to
So
45.
it's in a schedule, in a time.
It's
period.
actually in a 10-year period.
Oh, this is,
So,
okay.
Yeah, so then
I
it
thought
goes
maybe it went like bids, like, no.
26 to 35, and then there's a 10-year period, 35 to 40.
So we're not even, they don't even imagine ours being done,
Oh,
right?
No, so you're beyond 2045, but you were in illustrative Tier 1 meeting, so if we get a money and we start funding these projects within that 10-year period, and we start going to the next 10-year period, then the next time we update the plan, you would move into a funded, fiscally constrained tier.
So do we have to have something in place to get back in that tier, or is it, were we in there just because we were doing a good job at networking?
Because you're one of the priorities. That goes through our our prioritization process.
Okay,
Yeah,
Squeaky wheel.
that's what I'm wondering.
No question about it.
prioritization.
Who is that guy?
Okay, anything else? The numbers from the half-cent tax, looks like they're a little bit ahead for the year, a little bit down, I'm sorry. Sales tax, staying about where they were last year. And the sales of fuel at the airport, about the same, John? Is that how you're looking at it?
Yeah, they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
We are seeing an increase in larger jets coming in.
Increase in what?
We have seen an increase in larger jets coming in, though. Infrequent basis still, but just larger planes utilizing airstrip.
Anything else for anybody? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Got it, I move.
Got it.
Motion to adjourn, all in
Second.
favor? Aye. Thank you all.
Aye.
No, because he doesn't have it in writing anymore.
I wonder
So-
who that guy is see you guys.
I forgot what,
Take care. I wonder who the
I
guy
don't
is.
know.
So we had a meeting
I
last
know, I feel
I
bad.
was not involved because
Puts those
Mr.
in the
Schroepfer
right
is
spot.
involved. So,
I think it's,
yeah, our
See ya.
attorneys met with him and Mr. Schroepfer.
MoDOT.
I said, see